anymore.
No? Is there like something better than that now? Or is it?
I don't think so. No, but I know a lot of the station or a lot of the theaters, they don't have like the big fancy theaters anymore. They have the big fancy theaters with the big seats and the screens and everything, but they don't have like the 3D and all that nonsense because dead.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. They always try to bring back 3D every once in a while.
Yeah, I know. We're probably a good 10 years away from the next renaissance of 3D movies.
Yeah.
That was like that was like 2004, something like that, when it rolled around last time and lasted for a good 10
years. Yeah, because you know what? I think you had the TV with the glasses stuff.
Yeah, I had a Samsung with the glasses, with the powered glasses, like they had batteries in them and everything.
Yeah. I think I still got that same effect where it would just give me like a headache and I don't know, it would just wear my eyes out. It's just like, your eyes get really fatigued or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was cool, but it definitely was not something I went out of my way to use.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get this thing started, huh?
All right,
cool.
Rolling down the boulevard in the speedboat Corvette, like a tail on a tornado ring to promise soaked in sweat. One hand on a glass pipe, the other on the wheel. Devil riding shotgun, singing, boy, let's make a deal.
This is Groundless, a Justified podcast. This is a podcast where we watch every episode of Justified and then come on here and talk about it. I'm Chris. That man is Randy.
Oh, man, we only have a few more episodes till we get to the end of the season.
I know. What a relief.
I don't know. This episode wasn't that bad, but man, it's been a slog.
It is.
It's been.
What's so funny about this episode is when you compare it to last week's episode, like the amount of content in this episode compared to what happened last week, there's nothing in this. Nothing happens in this episode. I mean, aside from the art situation, right?
Yeah.
And there was so much in the prior episode, and you're like, can you maybe have just moved a little bit from that episode to this episode and maybe something? Like my notes are less than a page on this thing. It's wild.
Yeah.
So the scenes, but it does kind of highlight, and we're here, of course, talking about season 5, episode 11 of Justified, an episode called The Toll. It originally aired March 25th, 2014. And I think it highlights the differences in directors, right? I think that's really what this is about, because the scenes in this episode are more drawn out. They're longer. There's more substance. There's more meat to them. There's a lot more things that happen in each individual scene. It takes longer and more things happen than in the last episode, where it was very punchy. It was very short scenes with lots of things happening in a very small, compressed period of time. And so a lot of things happened in that episode.
Yeah.
And I think it just highlights the director difference, right? So
yeah, and then there was this, back to the prison, and there was that whole thing that I kind of like. I watched this episode a few times, and I kind of like fast forward through those scenes.
Well,
the second time,
mercifully, there wasn't much, right? We'll dispense with that section as soon as we get into the episode. we'll dispense with the Ava in prison, because there's not much to talk about there. But it is just indicative of how painful that storyline is, that it's like, okay, we barely had anything to say here, but we still had to check back in on it because we know people want to know what's going on with Ava. So our synopsis: a shooting close to home forces Raylan and Boyd to decide which lines they're willing to cross. Written by Benjamin Cavell, directed by John Avnet. These are guys we know. They've directed episodes before, written episodes before, several of them, in fact. And then our guest stars this week, we have 2, actually. Our first is Leslie Riley, who plays Leslie Mullins. So she plays Art's wife, who Raylan escorts to the hospital in the first 10 minutes of the show. The actress, Leslie Riley, is actually married to Nick Searcy, who is Art. So that's his actual real world wife in the show pretending to be his wife. So I thought that was a neat little
that's interesting
trivia item. As such, she has a pretty limited list of credits. She's not been in a whole lot. She's got a couple episodes of Justified because she's in a season 6 episode as well. She's got Dawson's Creek appearance and a few TV movies, but not much else. So she's got a pretty limited list of credits, but actually married to Nick Searcy, actually Art's real wife. So in real life, I thought that was interesting.
Now, do we bring up Dawson's Creek enough in this podcast? Not really, huh?
No, you know why we don't? Because I have never seen a single episode of Dawson's Creek.
I think I've seen maybe like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have never seen. I am aware of who was in Dawson's Creek. I don't know what the show was about. I have a vague concept of what it was about, but I have never read about it. It's interesting that you bring this up, actually, because we have a tie-in to Justified related to Dawson's Creek. Now that I think about it, I don't know if you saw the news or not. But the Justified City Primeval world premiere episode is going to premiere at an event in Texas, and I'm looking up what the name of the event is right now. I believe it's called ATX. Yeah.
Okay.
ATX TV Festival. So this is June 1st through the 4th in Austin. It's the ATX TV Festival. And the world premiere of the first episode of City Primeval, High Noon and Justified City Primeval, rather, an 8-part limited series. So we know now that it's 8 episodes. Is going to premiere at the ATX TV Festival in June. Also slated for the opening of the festival are a Dawson's Creek 25th anniversary screening and conversation, and and they have a bunch of the behind the scenes people, writers, producers, who are going to be there talking about Dawson's Creek, and the influence it's had.
How funny, because I thought you were going to say that they were going to premiere a reboot of Dawson's Creek. You know, like it's like.
Like 20 years later, Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, or they had because they remake.
Or like the kids, like they did with Boy Meets World and Girl Meets World or whatever.
Yeah.
The kid becomes the main character.
Well, I thought a good idea for a bit a while back would have been like, I give you 5 TV shows, and you're supposed to guess which one is not being rebooted.
Oh wow!
But I gave up because it was like
because all of them were being rebooted.
Yeah. I couldn't. I was like, oh well, what about this? And it's been either had already been remade or is in the process of being remade. So I gave up on that.
That makes me laugh because I have read articles where that talk about branding and how important branding is to kind of any exercise. And you know who really understood branding was Colonel Gaddafi. He understood branding because the guy was the supreme leader of the country. He could have been a general if he wanted to, but he understood the power of a reliable brand name. And so he stuck with Colonel because he's a smart guy. But
just don't get that eye of Sauron of the which is the United States government focused on you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But so branding is such an important thing that what the article I read talked about was how they'll reboot shows and movies that were bad. They were bad TV shows. They were bad movies. Yeah. People didn't like them. People didn't watch them. But it's the marketing budget that you can do for a reboot like that is so much lower than the cost of promoting something that's incredibly new and novel. Because you have the awareness of people already, you have name recognition. It's like The Distinguished Gentleman, that Eddie Murphy movie. It's all about name recognition, and so they'll reboot something that was complete garbage the first time around just because they know it has name recognition.
That's funny. Yeah, I was like thinking, okay, what would be a good thing to name? And like everything I looked at was like, yeah, that's in development, or like this person signed on to do it, or I don't know. Just like, okay, well, I guess it's always going to be a constant cycle.
Yeah, and we say that, with knowing full well that, my favorite TV show, Justified, is doing a reboot.
Only certain people are allowed to do reboots. That's right. You can't just reboot anything.
That's exactly right. And you know what? Justified ended of its own volition when it wanted to. It didn't have to get canceled because, the audience had dropped off like Walking Dead or whatever, like 12 years later, there's like 3 people still watching the show. It still had its audience. It ended the story on its own terms. So that makes sense, I think, to bring something back. But
yeah.
So anyway, so that's our first guest star. Our other guest star is Shashani Hall. So he is Ed Kirkland, and he actually is no more. Also, he passed away. He passed away in March of 2021. And he's got a pretty extensive list of credits going back to the late 70s, early 80s. I thought this one was interesting. He appeared in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. He was a cop in that show, or in that movie rather, which is an all-time classic movie. I'm trying to remember the scene that he was in. I'm pretty sure I know exactly which one it is, with the girl in the police station. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the scene that he's in. But yeah. As a cop, he's also been in a bunch of TV shows on a 1-episode sort of guest appearance. Shameless, Lethal Weapon TV show, Castle, NCIS LA, Lie to Me, Criminal Minds. He's also had some roles in some big movies: The Amazing Spider-Man, Evan Almighty, Bruce Almighty, bit parts mostly, just appearances. He was credited, but not major roles, not necessarily even speaking roles. But so he's relatively prolific, and passed away in March of 2021, unfortunately. So that's Shashani Hall, Ed Kirkland. And that's our guest stars for this week. So that means it's time to take a quick trip back to the week of March 25th, 2014, and take a look at what was going on in popular culture at the time. And for that, we need our DeLorean.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
We did, and to check out the week of March 25th, 2014, first we go to our number one movie. We have a new number one movie again this week, and this week it's a movie called Divergent, which is it's got Shailene Woodley in it, and it's based on some sort of series of novels. I don't know. I think people talk about them in the same breath as Hunger Games, but I'm not sure that the books are similar or even remotely related to the Hunger Games, but I think they're targeted for the same sort of audience, YA sort of fiction, sci-fi readers.
Yeah. I'm looking at it. I just looked it up right now. It looks like it was a series.
They had 2 or 3 movies, something like that.
Yeah. Did you ever watch the Hunger Games? I thought actually that was pretty solid.
I read the books too. I thought the books were great.
Oh, I never read the books.
Yeah,
you thought they were pretty good?
I got them for free from Amazon, so I read them, and I thought they were pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I don't know who Shailene Woodley is, though.
She's the one who was dating Aaron Rodgers until very recently. She's like a weirdo, super hippie actress.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Anyway. Also in theaters this week, debuting Muppets Most Wanted, which grossed $21 million.
I don't know. The Muppets make me laugh.
I
just
love
saying the name.
So
yeah, they're fantastic.
Obviously, we like Statler and Waldorf. You would,
yeah. It's always, because usually it should be a trio, right? There should be 3 up there in that.
Yeah.
On the balcony, but it's just them 2.
Oh man. And so Muppets Most Wanted premiered this week, only grossed 21 million. I feel bad when Muppet movies don't do well in the theater. That's just brutal.
Yeah. Oh, Ricky Gervais is in it.
Yeah, it's true. And I will say this, it is weird for somebody who grew up with the Muppets to listen to the Muppets now, because the voices are very weird, right? Like, they're not the same. They're not very much not the same, and it's noticeable in some instances. In other instances, it's less noticeable. But in some instances, it's really hard to get past.
Yeah,
get past the voices. But I do,
because it's just so imprinted in your memory.
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Like,
exactly. You, hey, Kermity Frog. You hear that, and you're like, if you don't hear it that exact way and that exact cadence, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's